So this is a quick guide on how to mod any Phat PS2 without FreeMCboot. Now what you are going to need is a network adapter. I had to take the back cover plate off mine just so it would fit my IDE hard drive. But you could also use the SATA adapter as well, which I've linked to in the video description. And you're going to want to have a hard drive. Now if you've got an IDE drive, that's fine, or you can go up to 2 terabytes with a SATA drive. Last but not least, you're going to need a way to connect your hard drive to your computer. I'm going to be using an IDE SATA USB adapter. I've linked that in the video description. So I'm going to be plugging that into my IDE hard drive. Now, if you're using a SATA, this will work as well too. You just gotta have a few other connections, or you could use any external USB hard drive adapter. So I didn't have to do any jumper settings, but if you're coming up with errors, just make sure you're either set to master or cable select. And I usually plug it in and let it boot up for a few seconds, and then I'll plug in the IDE portion. I find that the computer won't recognize it if you plug it in too fast. So we're going to jump to our computer, and I've linked in the video description a download pack. We're going to extract that. And then we're going to double check and make sure our hard drive is all set up for this. I'm going to type in disk M into the search bar, and that's going to bring up Disk Manager. I just plugged in my USB drive, so it'll take a couple seconds to recognize. And there we go. Now the first thing you want to do is check if you are currently on a master boot record. As you can see here, I'm not, so I'm going to delete this partition. We'd be deleting it anyways. And we're going to convert it to a master boot record. Now that our hard drive is set up, we're going to open up this folder, and we're going to right click on HD copy and run as administrator. Then you're going to double click on the file and double click on the HDD image file. Now click next or continue, and click your hard drive, which will say USB. Now just click start. It's going to give you a couple warnings, just making sure that you're doing this to the hard drive that you want to, not your PC hard drive. Now this is flashing over HDD. This will allow you to run Homebrew and all your games. So now that this is almost complete, there we go. We're going to close out of this, and we can safely eject our hard drive. That's pretty much all you need to do to mod your PS2. Now we're going to jump and plug it into our network adapter and slide that into our PS2. Now make sure it's properly fitted, and then once that's pushed in, we're just going to turn it on. You're going to notice right away that your PS2 takes a little bit longer to boot up. This is normal. This is the mod loading. Once the browser screen shows up, we're going to press X, and hopefully you see this screen right here. If you don't, just restart the whole process over. Now we're going to jump right over to OPL, and you can see that this will safely launch Homebrew. So now that we got OPL loaded up, you can see it's working just fine. The only problem is we have no games. So in the next part of the video, I'll show you how to load up all your games onto your hard drive, which we'll go back to our main app screen here, and you'll see this comes with Ulaunch, which comes with a hard drive manager. So if you launch Ulaunch and just press X, you'll see the HDD manager, and you can see how much space. You can move files around if you want. Now if you're not familiar with the PS2 file system, don't touch this. So we'll jump back to our computer, and I'll show you how to load up some games. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the download pack, and we're going to go to PS2 HDD, and we're going to go to WinHip. Now you want to right click on WinHip and run as administrator. Click OK, and now you're going to select the PS2 hard drive. Now once it's selected, you're going to want to go to Utilities, and you're going to want to scan/repair drive. Click that, and click your PS2 hard drive. You see there's no issues really here. I could click cancel, but I'm going to repair anyways and save. So here is where you can add some games if you like. Now I'm assuming you have them in ISO format, so just click Add Images and navigate to where you're keeping them. I've got 3 here, so I'm just going to pick Vice City first and click Start. It's going to give you a few different options. So if the game doesn't run right off the bat, you got a few different modes you can select, and it's going to rename it to the old way that the PS2 used to recognize games, which I've got an app later on in the video to show you. Now I'm skipping out the part where it takes the transfer. It doesn't take too long because we've got a direct hard drive connection by USB to our computer. But after every time you transfer a game, what I like to do is I like to scan and repair the drive, because sometimes it doesn't show up, and I find that PS2 hard drives are a little bit finicky. So I'm going to do that over and over again for each game that I've got. Now there's a lot of other different settings in here, so once you get a little more familiar with the PS2, you can play around with it, but it's pretty easy to add PS2 games. I'm going to do a bigger video later on just describing pretty much everything involved with this more in depth, but for a 10-minute video this will get you going. So I think this is the last game, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run it as administrator one more time. I don't know why it closes out after I transfer a game, but whatever. And you see, after I go to repair it, that's when the last game shows up. It always seems to do that, and I don't know why. So now that we got all our games transferred over, if you go back to the download pack, I've also included OPL Manager. We're going to open that up and run it as administrator as well. And all these prompts, just click Save and Yes. And here you're going to click Local PS2 Hard Drive. And then click Yes on the prompts, OK. OK, and you can see we see our hard drive here with the 3 games. And we go to cover art, and you can download it individually if you like, or if you go up to the batch options, you can download it all at once. So we're going to do that for our 3 games that we have. Should only take a few seconds. And now that's complete. So now we got some games on our PS2 hard drive. So we're going to close out all this stuff. Now if you want to clean files, this is more so if you remove games from your PS2 and you want the space back on your hard drive. So there we go. Isn't much left to do but close out of here, safely eject your hard drive, and test out the games on our PS2. So we're going to plug it in and go back to the browser, and we'll go back to the hard drive, and we're going to go back to OPL. So there we go. Now it's not going to show any games yet. We're going to want to go to the settings. We're going to scroll down to hard drive device startup mode. Now if you put games in different things like USB, or if you have a server with games on it, you can set that up as well, but that's a little out of depth for this video. So for the hard drive, you're just going to want to select hard drive start mode and bring it down to auto, and make sure you scroll all the way to the bottom and click OK. Then for the cover art, go to display settings and enable cover art. And we're going to put that to on, and again you want to go all the way down and click OK. Now I accidentally pressed back and not OK, so it didn't save that setting change. And again, last thing, save settings, and then press circle, and you can see our games are popping up. So there we go. That's pretty easy. This video is under 10 minutes, and you could get your Phat PS2 modded without FreeMCboot. Now personally I like using FreeMCboot, so we're going to do a quick boot and just make sure this works, and there we go. So hopefully this helps you out. Please like and subscribe.